parts of a flower. So what are the learning objectives? That is, at the end of this lesson, we will be completely knowing about the Androecium with its structure and functions, and as well as Gynoecium also. So in this part, first we will be starting with Androecium. So what is Androecium? It forms the third hole inside the corolla. It is forming the third hole inside the corolla. It consists of the main parts, that is the stamens and a filament. So this filament, this part is called the filament. So it is we can say that each anther, it is having this part is the anther. The anther is actually attached to the filament and with the help of a structure which is known as connective. So what is connecting the anther to the filament? That is the connective. It is actually a new term or a new word which you are knowing now. So what is present actually in the anthers? So this is anther, this is filament, this part is filament. The part which is adding it is called the connective. Now each anther is having, having two lobes. We can see the lobes here, and each lobe is having the pollen sacs. So in the next slide we will be seeing that the pollen sacs are there. So thus each anther is made up of 4 pollen sacs. So if we cut down the anther, we will see that each is made up of 4 pollen sacs. So the anther is bilobed, we all know that. Let us move on to the next slide and see when we cut open the anther, what we can see. We can see that it is having 4 pollen sacs. So this we can see the functions of Androecium here in this diagram. We can see that it is having 4 pollen sacs. You can see the pollen sacs visible over here. So what are pollens? Now first let us understand that what are pollens. So pollens they are actually fine powdery granular structures. You can see these are pollen grains. These are actually granular structure component. So these are granular structure component. They are present in the pollen sacs, or we can say that they are being produced in the pollen sacs. So what is the main function of Androecium? The anther which is producing the pollen grains which contain the male reproductive cells or the gametes. So what are these pollen grains? These are the male reproductive cells or the gametes. And the filament, what is the filament doing? The filament is bearing and supporting the anther. This is the filament, it is bearing or holding the anther, it is supporting the anther, and with the point by which it is connecting the anther is called the connective. Okay, so in the previous slide also we have told that the filament and the anther are the two parts, and the anther is having 4 pollen sacs. Here we can see the pollen sacs in a distinct manner, and they are producing the pollen grains which are actually fine powdery type of substances. So these are the two main functions of Androecium. Now let us see a different type of flower which is called a staminate flower. So what is a staminate flower? This is a new term. We didn't know this term. So this staminate flower, what is it? The flowers which bears only stamens are referred to as the male flowers or staminate flowers. So here you see the diagram. If you can see here, you can see that this is having only the stamens. So these, they don't have the female part or the ovary part or the pistil part. So these flowers are having only male part. Generally, we all know that most of the flowers are bisexual in nature. That is, they are having both the male and the female parts in each flower. But this is a special type of flower. Many plants are there which are having only flowers which are having male flowers. So they are called staminate flowers. Now in this slide we are going to see a few variations in the Androecium. Might be you may not be very specific about all these variations, but you should know. I feel you should know at this stage, at 9th standard, you should know that what are the variations in the Androecium. So there are several variations in the Androeciums. First of all, the variation, it depends on the number of stamens. Second, it depends on the position of the stamens within a flower. Okay. And third one is the stamens are fused or free. Now, when we are coming to the number of stamens, I would like to show you the next slide. Now, number of stamens. Now, from these two diagrams, what do we understand? There are two diagrams, and we need to understand something, that how can these flowers vary from each other? So, we are putting the heading that variations in the Androecium. So, in these two slides, we can say that in the first one, in the first picture and in the second picture, suppose, there are many stamens. Several dozens of stamens, but here there are few stamens. Okay, so it depends on the plants. It depends on different species of plants that how many stamens will be there. So the name suggests that on the number of stamens also the flowers vary. So there is a variation. Like in rose, you can say that there are several dozens of stamens, whereas we can say that Jacarandus, there is a flower, in that they are having only 4 stamens. Is it clear? There are many examples of plants which are having very few stamens, whereas roses are having dozens and dozens of stamens. So variations on the number of stamens is like this. Some flowers are having less, whereas some flowers are having more. So here we can write that they are having less stamens, and here we can say that they are having more stamens. So it is varying in the number of stamens. Now let us move on to the next part. What is that? Now it depends on the position of the stamens within a flower. So how come we can say that it depends on the position? Now the stamens may actually they originate near the base of the flower, base of the pistil, or they may be fused at their base. So now, for example, we can take that the petunia plant, the filaments are actually fused with the petals. So when the filaments are fused with the petals, and the condition is also called epipetalous. Now here we can see the filaments are all fused with the petals. So here the filaments are fused with the petals. Filaments are fused with the petals. So filaments are fused with the petals and they are called epipetalous. Okay, is it clear? So as the filaments are fused with the petals, they are called epipetalous. Now let us move on to the next one. What is that? Now here the stamens may be fused or they may be free. So what they are called? They are actually called monoadelphous. So monoadelphous, what is that? The filaments may be fused and the anthers are always free. So the filaments may be fused and the anthers are free. That is known as monoadelphous. Androecium. So for example, peas, you can see here, this is an example of, if you go through your garden, you can see that this is hibiscus. So this is the hibiscus plant flower which is having the filaments. You can see that the anthers are actually free, but the filaments are fused. So the filaments may be fused and the stamens are always free. This is called monoadelphous. These are actually the new terms you must learn. So previously we have learned, just a quick recall, depending on the number of stamens, they may be less, they may be more, depending on how they are arranged. So when the filaments are being fused with the petals, they are called epipetalous. This is we can call monoadelphous. Now in the next slide, we can see here also it is depending on the polyadelphous. So what does this polyadelphous term mean? So the stamens actually they may be free, but the filaments are always united. You can see here filaments are united in the bunch in a bunch of 4. So the filaments are always united. Okay, the filaments are always united. And example like mustard, bombax, these are the examples and they are called polyadelphous. See here the filaments are always united in bunch. The filaments are united in bunch. Here the filaments are united in a bunch of 4. So that is called the polyadelphous anthers. Now there is another variation in this part. We can move on to the next part. That is diadelphous. Diadelphous, you can see the diadelphous means the filaments are always united in 2 bundles and the anthers, they remain free. The filaments are united into 2 bundles. See, the filaments are all united into 2 bundles, but the anthers are free. So this happens generally in peas, beans, gram, etc. So example, if you are taking, it happens in peas, beans, grams, etc. Okay, this happens in peas, beans and grams. So that is diadelphous. So first we discussed about monoadelphous, then polyadelphous, then diadelphous. So diadelphous is they are in a bunch of 2 filaments. Polyadelphous, the filaments are always united but the anthers are free. So filaments are united in bunch. And monoadelphous is the filaments may be united or the anthers are always free, as in hibiscus plant. So now let us, this is all I think about Androecium we have completed, because we need to stress on now Gynoecium, because we have already learnt in details about Androecium, its structure, its function and the main types and variations in the stamens. Now we are moving on to Gynoecium, or the 4th and the innermost part of the flower. So what are the main units of Gynoecium? The main units are pistils or carpels. These pistils or carpels are collectively, the carpels form the gynoecium. Now we can say that collectively the carpels are forming the gynoecium. This we have already studied earlier also, and it is the female part of the flower. As the carpels produce the female gametes, and the flower which is having more than 1 or more pistils they can have. And what are these pistils having? The 3 main parts of the pistils are ovary, stigma and style. Okay, the flower is having 1 or more pistils and the 3 main part of the pistils are ovary, stigma and style. So 4 innermost whole of the flower, it is collectively all the carpels are forming the gynoecium. Gynoecium, it produces the female gametes, and it is having 3 main parts, that is ovary, style and stigma. Now let us see what we are having in the next part. Now here we can see the images of gynoecium. Okay, so this is the style part. Sorry, this is stigma, this is the style, and this one is the ovary. So the swollen base is the ovary, this stick-like part is the style, and the top part is the stigma. So this part is the stigma. So we will discuss each and every part in detail. Now first of all we need to see the ovary part. So what is the ovary part? So here we see that there is a distinct diagram over here. We can see the ovary part. This is the ovary part. So it is the basal portion and it is having the ovules or the embryo seeds. The female gametes, they develop in the ovules. Now next comes the style. So the style is connecting the stigma with the ovary. Okay, the style is the connector between the stigma and the ovary. And the top part, what is the stigma doing? It is the area where the pollens are received, is called the stigma. Is it clear? So this is the area where the pollens are received. Here the pollen grains are received. So we have seen in the previous part, in the anther there are pollen sacs. The pollen sacs produce pollen grains. So the pollen grains come and fall in this female part, that is the stigma. So they receive the pollen grains. So here the reception of the pollen grains, or they receive the pollen grains, the stigma. And the style is connecting the stigma with the ovary. Now let us see what is there in the next part. Now here, as we have previously told when we were studying about Androecium, we have told you about the staminate flower. They contained only the stamens. Now here you can see the flowers which are having only carpels. They have no stamens, they bear only carpels. So this is an exception. That was also an exception. So these are only carpels are present, and this is called a carpellate flower. So what is it? This is called a carpellate flower. Okay, so having only stamen is a staminate flower. Having only carpels is a carpellate flower. So this is a flower which is having only the female part. No male part is present here. Now in this we can see that a clear picture of the function of the the gynoecium has been shown here. So here we can see the three main parts of gynoecium. This is the stigma part. This one is the style, this connector, and here we can see the ovary. So within the ovary, what we can see? Within the ovary, we can see that it contains the ovules or the embryo sac. Okay, so what is ovary? We can see this ovary. What is it? It is a hollow cavity which contains the ovules, and each ovules contain egg cell for reproduction. These are the ovules. What do they contain? They contain egg cells for reproduction. They contain egg cells for reproduction. So this is how it happens in human reproductive system. The same thing happens in plants. But there also egg is produced, and here we see that ovules are producing egg, or the part which is responsible for reproduction. So next, let us move on to the next main function of gynoecium. Now we have already told in the previous part that the style is bearing the most suitable position of stigma, and which is helping to receive the pollen from the other flowers or as well as the same flower during pollination. Now we can see that this flower, this flower is a bisexual flower having both male and female parts. So from here we can see from the anther the pollen grains will come and through air, through insects, they'll come and fall on stigma, and in that way the pollination will happen. So these two both are the examples of bisexual flower. So both are bisexual flowers, and if it is a staminate or a carpellate flower, then the pollen grains will be carried on with the help of insects, with the help of any other methods of pollination. It will happen. So we can see that the anthers, they will produce the pollens and they will fall on the stigma, and the stigma, they are in the most suitable position for receiving the pollens during pollination. And what is a stigma? The stigma is actually structurally it is produced in such a way that they are adapted to receive or trap the pollens. So there is a sticky fluid here in the stigma, and they are so much adaptive or receptive to the pollens that once a pollen comes and falls on that, they are granular particles, so they'll stick to the stigma. If you take the hibiscus flower and if you take out the parts, you will see that there is sticky part. The stigma is very sticky, where dust like things or pollens, if you rub, you can see the pollens or dusty yellowish thing will be there. So just go to your garden, pick a hibiscus flower. If it is possible for me also, I'll show you the specimen, and surely I think you will like it. So this is all for today's part, Androecium and Gynoecium, with its parts, with its structures, with the diagrams. And please go through it properly and go through the diagrams. Go through each and every part, and if you are not getting anything, please do ask me. Okay, and this is today's episode. If you are having any queries, if you are liking it, please do like and share. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.